Mirasee.
Let's take fear, for example. I always say it's kind of like a muscle. The more you work it, the stronger it gets, the stronger you'll get to break through those walls of fear, right? And it won't stop you. It might stop you for a moment, but you'll recognize it and you'll be able to overcome it and break through it. And people have to realize that all of that is part of a process and part of a journey, not just to better their business, but to better themselves as well.
Hi, I'm Dr. Irena O'Brien, and you're listening to Neuroscience of Coaching. I'm a cognitive neuroscientist with almost 30 years of study and practice in psychology and neuroscience. And as the founder of the Neuroscience School, I teach coaches and other wellness professionals real-world, evidence-based strategies to use in their own practices. In each episode, I invite a seasoned coach to discuss a topic that affects our field, and together, we provide you with science-based tools to help your clients reach their goals by working with their brains to create results that last. For this episode, we're going to explore something many people hear about but don't often understand: cognitive dissonance. Simply put, cognitive dissonance is the uncomfortable feeling we have when we experience conflicting beliefs, values, or attitudes. And often, one of these is rational, while the other is irrational. The discomfort comes from our subconscious desire for consistency in our value system and our conscious desire to be rational in our thinking. So let's say you've been saving money for a few months to build up an emergency fund. You're proud of that. But one day you find yourself buying a brand new phone that you didn't really need. Suddenly, you feel guilty or embarrassed. Perhaps a friend or family member called you out on your purchase. Cognitive dissonance is showing up. So the dissonance in this example is the contradiction between your belief that saving money is important and your action in making a costly, unnecessary purchase. So in an attempt to wash away this negative feeling, your mind might try to rationalize the purchase. You say to yourself it was an unbeatable deal, your other phone wasn't working right, or something like that. So rationalization is just one of many ways we might cope with cognitive dissonance. Another might be berating yourself over the purchase, reinforcing an inner story that you're quote-unquote not good with money, which is part of your self-identity. However cognitive dissonance shows up, it's rare that we're aware of it. Instead, it's wrapped in a bundle of emotions, such as shame, guilt, confusion, denial, anger, or regret. And meanwhile, beneath these emotions, our mind is subconsciously trying to quietly reconcile our inner conflict. What's interesting is that the concept of cognitive dissonance can be traced back to Aristotle more than 2,000 years ago. Since the study of psychology had not developed yet, he saw it instead as a matter of ethics. But the concept persisted and eventually was incorporated into psychology. And finally, in 1957, it was developed into a proper theory and named cognitive dissonance by the American psychologist Leon Festinger. He likened it to hunger, a feeling that we will instinctively seek to quickly eliminate. Fast forward to the 21st century, and brain imaging has allowed neuroscientists to see the actual neural activity associated with cognitive dissonance. Most significantly, we see it in the posterior medial frontal cortex, which is known as the PMFC for short. The PMFC is just a little bit above your eyes and a little bit in from your forehead. Among other functions, this brain region is associated with threat detection. It's a kind of an alarm system for your survival. For this reason, it's theorized that cognitive dissonance is a feeling of perceived threat that our brain instinctively tries to eliminate or avoid. Because it's a threat to our ego and identity, not a threat to our actual physical safety. Eliminating it means resolving the inner emotional conflict we feel. I mentioned before that rationalization is one common way we do this. Another is something called confirmation bias, which is the act of selectively choosing information that reinforces our beliefs or resisting information that challenges them. If you've ever gotten into a heated political argument and the other person seemed completely irrational to you, this is likely what was going on. At the root of it, we come back again to a dominant theme in my show, what psychology and neuroscience call the predictive brain. At just about every moment, our brains are making split-second predictions about our thoughts and experiences in an effort to keep us safe and alive. Unfortunately, A threat to our ego or identity registers a similar emotional response as a threat to our physical well-being. But the good news is that neuroscience and psychology have also given us excellent ways to work with our posterior medial frontal cortex and predictive brains. We don't have to be slaves to our thoughts and feelings. We can learn the skills needed to pause, self-assess, and respond in a more productive and healthy way than our ancient ancestors would. So with that introduction as the foundation for our show today, I'm excited to bring on my guest, a coach with a wealth of experience in helping clients navigate cognitive dissonance. Ann Carden is the founder and CEO of A. Carden, Inc. and the Expert in You brand. She has more than 4 decades of business experience and has coached hundreds of coaches and entrepreneurs in more than 80 different industries. During her career, she has also worked in corporate management and started multiple successful business ventures. Ann is a 3-time published author, and her latest book was a #1 international bestseller. She has been featured on the affiliates of ABC, NBC, CW, and Fox, among many other media outlets, not to mention numerous podcasts. She was also chosen as one of the top coaches in the world by Six Figure Coach magazine. Ann, I'm so grateful you could join me today.
Thank you, Irena. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here too. So let's start by sharing more about your interest in this topic as it relates to clients. So when we talked last week, you mentioned a potential client who needed your services but decided not to work with you. So tell us more about that.
First of all, I'm a higher investment coach because of the results that I help people get and the years of experience, and someone that really needs my help and has the expertise for my help decided not to invest because they just weren't ready. It wasn't really about the money, although they said it was about the money. In their mind, it was about the money. But what it really was, to me, underlying fear, it wasn't even that they didn't believe I couldn't help them, because she even said, if I was going to hire anybody, it would be you, because I know of the results that you get people. But she still didn't invest. And so you and I were having a conversation around this. And I said, this is one of the struggles when they are needing to level themselves up or their business. All the things that you're talking about are the things that stop them. And it's why the percentage of successful people is so much smaller than the percentage of people that never really reach their full potential, because they allow themselves to be stopped in their tracks because of what's going on here.
And they don't realize it.
They don't realize it. And even this particular person, she said, I know you can help me. I know if I was going to invest, you're the person I would invest with. So it wasn't a trust thing, because sometimes that can come into play, right? Do they really trust? It wasn't that. It was that she maybe didn't trust herself, that she could get the results. And so maybe it was an investment that she literally never thought she would make. And so it wasn't that she didn't see the value. She just couldn't get herself over that wall.
Yeah, there was another example that really stuck with me. And it was someone who was a business coach. You're a business coach, right? So as a business coach, he helps other people build their businesses. And yet he was thinking about joining your program, but in the end, he didn't, because of the cognitive dissonance. If he was such a great business coach, why would he need a business coach?
Yes. Yeah. So that's where ego comes in. And you even mentioned that in your introduction. A lot of times ego will come into play. And so they think, well, I should be able to do this. I should know how to do this. So logically, they think it doesn't make sense to make that investment in someone else when they're teaching people how to do basically the same thing. But it goes back to, it's very difficult sometimes to do these things for yourself. We have blind spots. There are always areas where we're not an expert or where the execution just isn't the way it needs to be. And that's where the value of someone being able to recognize that and move you beyond that. But if you let your ego stand in the way and think, well, I'm embarrassed to have to get help in this area because I help people do this, then that will also really stop you in your tracks. So there are a few ways. Again, it's about people not leveling up, and it shows up in a lot of different ways, Irena.
So do you help your clients overcome this cognitive dissonance?
Not the way you do.
No, but in practical ways.
I don't do not have the formal training. Yeah, I mean, to a degree, yes, I work with them to try to help them get through their mindset issues. And to be quite honest, most of the people that I work with are really ready for their next level and they're ready to go all in. So to some degree, I do some mindset work and help them overcome some fear and things like that. But if I have to help them to do too much of that, they typically are not going to be the right client for me because helping them move into a new level, I help them with business. So if I can't get them to move forward, I can't get them the results.
Yeah, exactly. So what are some of your go-to strategies for helping clients recognize this cognitive dissonance in the moment? And how do you guide them through it?
One of the things that I help people get very, very high-end clients, and maybe they were not charging fees that really showed their expertise or valued their expertise. So as we're leveling them up, and I'm just going to use an example, I'm thinking about one client in particular. I think his highest offer was around $10,000 or something. And I was taking him to a $60,000 offer. And he said, this sounds great. And I really want to do it. So the market's a big piece of this. But we moved him into the right market. We got everything positioned. He said, I'm really excited about this, but I'm so nervous. I'm so scared to do this. And so I just really had to walk him through sort of the logistics of it. You know, I did things like, how long did it take you to acquire the expertise that you have? And he said, oh my gosh, like 40 years or something. He was a doctor. He had a PhD. I said, how much money did you invest over that time to learn what you've learned? And he said, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I said, when you work with a client, what are some of the results that you get them? And he was working with top level leaders. And he said, oh gosh, I've helped top executives triple their income. And the other thing I said is the people that you're wanting as clients, can they afford these services? And he said, oh yeah, they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, right? And I said, so do you see how everything that you're telling me, it doesn't make sense that you're willing to take $10,000 for what you do? Like it's almost a disconnect with your client. It almost makes you look like you're not very good at what you do. And so walking him through that exercise, and then he's like, oh my gosh, yes. I think about one of my clients, she closed a $50,000 deal in the first week that we worked together. And she had been charging like $3,500 for a 90-day thing. And here's the interesting thing. She said, if I would have gone and pitched that kind of an offer to them, or even if I would have pitched them an offer for $10,000, she said they wouldn't have taken it because they wouldn't have thought I was very good. And so it's really people understanding there has to be some logical sense too to what they're doing. So those are just some of the exercises I walk them through to just really get them to see how they're thinking. And I always say you can't sell from your own wallet. So that's one way. But the other way it shows up is I help people really build their influence on social media. And I'll see people say a lot. In fact, I just did a video around this today. And they'll say, well, I don't want to use my Facebook page for my business. And I'll say, why is that? Well, I have family and friends on there and I don't want them to see what I'm doing. And I said, but you're in business. You don't want people to know you have a business? Well, yeah, but I don't want them to see everything I'm doing. And so I just have to walk them through that process. And why would you not want to use a free advertisement, a free resource to grow your business? That doesn't make sense. You have this free, amazing resource. But the other thing is, how are you trying to control the narrative and the fact that what if you would inspire them? What if you would inspire your family and friends to do what you're doing? What if they have people that could use your services? So you're cutting all those people out because you're afraid somebody might unfriend you or that they won't care that you're posting about your business. So it's just helping people reframe a lot of times and look at things with a different perspective.
You're more of a psychologist than you think you are. And reframing is one of the powerful tools, right, that coaches have. It's almost like peeling an onion, right? You're peeling off the layers until you peel off all those layers that just don't work.
It's absolutely true. You have to break it down. The video I did today was around fear, and you have to break that down and look at it for what it is and look what's underneath that. And then you have to, again, shift that perspective. A good example of this is, I'm scared to do this. And then you shift that perspective, but gosh, what will happen if this really goes to where I want it to go, or if this really works? I'm scared to make this investment, but oh my gosh, what if Ann helps me get these amazing results? How will that change my business or my life? So that's one way. But the other way to look at it is I'm scared, I'm expanding, I'm growing. Look at where I'm going. And so when you start, and then what's your mission? Like, look at the bigger picture. What are you on mission if you're scared and you hide out and you shrink back and you don't do and you don't take the actions? Are you staying on mission? Because if you really truly have a mission for where you're going or what you want to do in your business, you have to be able to take the actions and move through the fear and the things that stop you internally.
I like how you take them back to their mission. Right, because mission is positive. Mission activates the default mode network in the brain, and that's the network of reflection. And that's where true transformation really happens, right? And then once you get them to really focus on their mission, then to identify and do the steps that it takes to get them to where they want to go is easier and more joyful.
Absolutely. Yes. And if you realize that it's all part of a journey and, let's take fear, for example. I always say it's kind of like a muscle. The more you work it, the stronger it gets, the stronger you'll get to break through those walls of fear, right? And it won't stop you. It might stop you for a moment, but you'll recognize it and you'll be able to overcome it and break through it. And people have to realize that all of that is part of a process and part of a journey, not just to better their business, but to better themselves as well. We cannot grow if we stay in the valleys, right? We have to climb the mountain. We have to do the hard work. And I think so many people, they'll say they want to do that, but look, if it was easy, everybody would be billionaires because there's enough money in the world, right? If it was easy, everybody would be playing a big game and be doing big, big, big things. But that's not the case. And some people don't know how to do the work, and that's one thing. Other people know they should and they won't. And let's be honest, laziness can also play. I don't mean to be negative, but we can be lazy about things. I can be lazy about things. We all can. We're human, right? And it's like, so it goes back to your mission. How important is that to you to accomplish that?
Yeah. So it's really mostly about activating a positive emotion first, right? Because without that, the work is onerous. It activates the stress response, right? The sympathetic nervous system when we're in that negative emotion. And it feels like you're pushing a pebble up a mountain, right?
Yeah, you're right. I've had a lot of clients that have been mindset coaches and really amazing work that they do. And it's interesting how sometimes we learn from our clients, right? But I've learned a lot of things from them as well as them learning from me. And one of the things that I learned that really stuck with me years ago is they said, you're either running towards something or you're running away from something. And running towards something is always going to be more inspiring and more about the process and the journey to get to it than it is to run away from something. That's why running away from pain or something that is hanging you up right now is a temporary. I used to say I didn't want to work with people that needed a temporary fix, like they were just stuck at the moment, because I liked working with people to really help them reach their big goals and achieve the big dream, right? But it's the same thing for ourselves. I'm not inspired about, I need to lose 10 pounds because I don't like the way I feel. I'm inspired by looking at myself in a different way, by knowing how good I'm going to feel, by seeing the energy that I have, seeing just the difference in how I'll carry myself and the confidence. So if you focus on those things, the positive aspect of things versus the negative, it's going to be a much easier climb up that mountain for sure.
Yeah, so there's one thing that I tell my students, that no matter what your clients come to you for, it's always about emotion. Would you agree with that?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, and it's their negative emotions that are holding them back.
Yeah. There's always some kind of an emotion, right? I mean, yeah, it can be good or bad. So the bad ones are the ones that hold you back. Those are the ones you have to be careful of. Those are the sneaky ones. You talk about the subconscious mind a lot and the programming that we have and how much runs automatically. And you have to recognize that. But some of that too, Irena, is learning these things. It's being educated on these things. It's being exposed to people like yourself that are explaining to people why they're struggling with this. I feel like you can't change something if you're not really aware of it.
No, that's another thing that I also tell my students, is that your number one job is really to help your clients build self-awareness. right? Because without self-awareness, there really is no change.
Right. No, that's absolutely true. I used to say I don't call myself a mindset coach. I said that for years. I'm not a mindset coach. I'm not a mindset coach. But I have realized through the years that I do have to do, whether it's getting them on video to feel comfortable out there on social media, or stepping onto a stage, or writing that book, or whatever big things I'm asking them to do to go to that next level. I do have to get them to overcome that and really look at how you're going to inspire. And it's always so great when they do it. And then they come back and they're like, people think I'm like a celebrity, or, and then they have all these really positive things that happened as a result of that. And that is what you have to get people to sort of see and have the vision for before it actually happens. They have to really step into that before it actually even take the actions if you're going to get them to move.
So I mentioned in my introduction that the posterior medial frontal cortex is part of our neural alarm system that evolved to help us detect threats. And unfortunately, we modern humans don't do very well at distinguishing threats to our ego and identity from threats to our physical safety. So how do you help clients to slow down and assess ego or identity threats in their work?
Again, I have to take them back to mission and what's really holding you back here. And if you look at a lot of things, ego and pride can be a lot of things. What that fear, the fear that they're feeling is really from pride. What if I mess up? What if I'll be embarrassed? What if I get on that stage and people don't, like what I'm doing? Or what if I put that video out there and it's not perfect? And that's very real in social media, because there are trolls out there that are literally looking to undermine people and break people down. But the other piece of this is I just have to, again, take them to, why do they really want to go to that next level? Well, they want to impact and they want to inspire and they want to make more money and they want to change their life and they want to change the lives of their family. And how do you think that will happen if you don't take the actions? Do you see that happening? No. So at some point, you have to just take the steps anyway. As hard as that might be, I always say it's just resistance to you leveling up. That's all it is. It's resistance. And the more you do it, the more it will become second nature. I remember, I talk about this a lot. 15 years ago, I did my first Facebook Live and I was shaking. And I had spoken on stages and I'd been a speaker for many, many years building businesses. But a Facebook Live, that was a whole different thing. That was a whole different world. I had the technology I was messing with. Did I look right on camera? What will people say? Will they put bad comments? When you're speaking on a stage, unless you're doing a survey, people aren't typically heckling you. They're just not. But when you're on social media, people, the keyboard warriors, right? They can be back there and people can be cruel. And so I just remember how afraid I was of that. And then the live was really not good at all. And I thought, I should just delete this. It's so bad, which you have a delete button. You can do that, but I didn't. And even if you look at my YouTube channel, thousands of videos, and you can go all the way back. Oh my gosh, it's embarrassing to look back at a lot of my older videos. But you know what? It was all growth and it was all a journey. And I leave it on there for a reason, because as I'm helping people do this, I want them to know if I could do it. And I was shaking in that first Facebook Live. I was shaking when I got my first $30,000 client. I was feeling that imposter syndrome and that self-doubt. If I could do it and came through that whole journey, you can do it too, because there's just nothing special or different about me that you don't also have. So it's just helping them recognize that and see that.
Yeah. So their fear, they come by that fear honestly, right? It's their predictive brain, and our brains are built on our past experience. And so they did have a situation, often going back to childhood, where they did fail. So now every time that they meet a situation that is similar or a threat, then their brain asks, well, last time we were in this situation, what did I do then? And so the brain will do that again. It'll issue that same response. And so, it requires self-awareness, and it requires us to start changing these predictive habits. But the thing too is about the predictive brain. If people understand that the brain predicts just about everything, then it can take away the guilt or the shame, because guilt and shame are really barriers to change. Do you see that?
100%. Oh my goodness. Yes, absolutely. I think any kind of a negative emotion is a barrier to change and to something better. It's always going to hold you back. It doesn't matter if it's fear or guilt or shame or self-doubt or whatever it is. But you said somewhere back in their past, they probably experienced something similar or the same thing, and it was a failure. But oh my gosh, we've all failed at everything. Oh, I mean, that is part of human nature from childhood all the way into adulthood. And I really believe that the thing that separates people that have success over people that don't is the fact that they move through that, they push through that, they do the work to get through that. And you said self-awareness is a big piece of that, but it doesn't matter what's happened in the past. It's really not relevant to what is going on right now and what you need to do right now. Like the past is the past, right?
It is. Yeah, the past is the past, but unfortunately, it becomes unconscious. And until you realize that this is your past that's driving you, you don't even know that you need to change that, right? And so if you had to do some kind of book report in front of the classroom and your friends laughed at you, well, you can be traumatized about public speaking for the rest of your life.
That's true. And so at that point, you have to make the decision. Do you want that to stop you? And you may not realize why, but that's where, to me, you have to really seek, okay, how can I move beyond this? Am I going to let this stop me, or am I going to figure out why it's stopping me and move beyond that? And sometimes we can't do that for ourselves. Sometimes we need experts and people that can help us figure those pieces out and can dive deeper into what's really going on there. Because again, there are things we don't know as well. It's not just blind spots, but there are things that I just don't have the experience in it. You do, Irena, for example. So I don't know everything you know. You don't know everything I know, right? And I have places I could help you, and you have places you could help me. And that's the value of we're not ever in this alone. But the difference is you make the decision, I'm not going to let this stop me. I'm going to do what I need to do, whether that's getting help or figuring it out or whatever that is to move forward. And I think that is the difference between people that are successful. I really believe anybody can be. They can accomplish the goals they want. They can achieve whatever they want. If they're willing to do the work, they're willing to overcome any obstacles and turn them into opportunities. And they really know that they can do anything that they want.
But all our psychologies are different, right? It all depends on the lies we tell ourselves. That comes from you. But not even the lies we tell ourselves, but how we rationalize things that happen to us. And we rationalize them as 2-year-olds, let's say. And then we carry that through the rest of our lives. So it can be tough. But one of my favorite strategies is small steps. What do you think of that?
I think you have to. How do you eat an elephant?
Yeah.
One bite at a time, right? No, you have to, because it is a journey. There are a lot of things you can skip rungs on the ladder. I believe there are a lot of marketing strategies that you can skip rungs on the ladder. There are a lot of business strategies where you can jump to the front of the line and make more money than people that have been doing things for years. I believe there are some things, but when it comes to personal development, when it comes to becoming the person that you're supposed to become, there's no shortcut. There just isn't a shortcut. It's a process. And that means you have to work through every piece, everything. It's very much like building a business. You don't just jump into a business and boom, success, right? No, you have to take steps, move forward, fail, figure it out, fail. I mean, nothing's ever a failure. I don't believe anything's ever a failure. It all is experience that you'll be able to recall someday and utilize in some way. It's all value. So that, again, that's a way of shifting how you look at things, right? That's a way of shifting a perspective. Oh, I didn't fail. I learned. What did I learn from that? How can I use it?
Yeah, exactly. So I have my own story of small steps. So when I defended my dissertation, it was the worst experience of my life, having to defend my dissertation in front of all these professors and family and friends. But then when I started to do this work that I do now, and then I had to do webinars and things, I started off doing teleseminars. So that was way back when a lot of people were doing teleseminars. But that was less scary to do a teleseminar because nobody could see you. And so then I progressed from there. And then I also had that fear of being seen on camera. I didn't like the camera, but you do get over it.
Well, Here's something too, a way that I help people get through it too, and even speaking on stages, because I help people also do that and present on stages. And I always say, stop making it about you. If you have a mission and, God's put that in you to share or whatever, then you're making it too much about you. And it's like the first Facebook Live. Well, I don't know that I thought so much, oh gosh, how do I look or anything like that. I think my biggest fear was I wouldn't come off getting across what I was trying to get across. Like I had truly had that desire for impact, to make an impact. And did I not sound like I was helpful? And so that's why I left it up. That was why when I listened back, I was like, no, the message was good. The video was horrible. I was shaking. It was terrible. But the message was still there. And that was what I was trying to get out and trying to get across. And so if you stop making it about you and realize it's beyond you, then it definitely helps, I think.
Yeah, that has helped me focus on the message. And yeah, that's what I really want to do, is share my message with people.
And who's supposed to find you will find you, and who's supposed to hear you will hear you. And everybody doesn't resonate with everybody, right? I mean, so some things we just have to accept too. It's just the way it is.
So one interesting way we can use cognitive dissonance to our advantage is seeing it as a path to improve self-control. And so basically it goes like this. So cognitive dissonance alerts us to our unresolved inner conflicts, which we can use to make more rational choices, which we can then use as a means to build better self-control. Do any thoughts or client experiences come to mind for you on this?
Yes. So when you're talking about self-control, I talk about this a lot, and I see this a lot. People doing what feels good short term without thinking about the long term. So one of the things that makes successful people successful is their resilience, their perseverance, thinking about the long game. And one of the things that makes people unsuccessful is they don't get the wins right now. And so they get discouraged, they get in their head, they quit, there's head trash, I'm not good enough. There's all these things that come up when in reality, you probably weren't realistic to think that it was going to come that easy and that fast. And so I see that a lot. So when you talk about self-control, I see things that they're doing that are not serving them in their business, because it feels good. Okay, here's an example. You've been networking with the same group of people for 20 years. You never get any business from them, but you love them. They're doing in what feels safe and it feels good. And they'll do that over because it's fun. That's the other thing. Well, I enjoy it. It's fun. I love it. But it's not moving your business forward. And then you're complaining that your business isn't where you want it to go, but you're not taking different actions. And so to me, some of that is self-control, not saying no to things, doing things. Oh, yeah, that sounds fun. I'll do that. Oh, yes, it is self-control.
Yeah. So I often say you can't wait until you feel like it. You just have to put one foot in front of the other, right? So finally, before we wrap up today, is there anything else you'd like to say about this topic?
I'm so fascinated by this topic, and I've been digging into it more and more through the years, and especially, like I said, working with a lot of really great coaches around this. And I've realized it really is the underlining factor to what we achieve in our life. But I think more than anything, I want to encourage, we've never had a time where there's been so much help. And I think that the time has never been more right for people to achieve big things, to go after their dreams, to accomplish their big goals, to become the person that they admire. Become that person. Don't sit back and admire people. If that's something you aspire to do or be, then go after it. There are people out there like yourself that are there to help. Irena, I've been in business for 40-something years. I've never had the options from both a business standpoint and even a personal growth standpoint that I have now, just like you have. We've never had these kind of options, right literally at our fingertips. Somebody can hear this and they can reach right out to you, right on their keyboard. That's pretty amazing. That's amazing. So to not utilize those things is crazy to me. And I want to inspire people. You can accomplish whatever you want, and there are amazing people out there to help you do it.
Well, thank you for that, Ann. That's such a great takeaway to close with. So what's the best way for listeners to learn more about you and what you do?
Yes, you can go to expertinu.com is my marketing and sales website. And then also I coach as well. So you can reach me there, or you can go to my personal website, anncarden.com. But you can find me all over social. You can Google my name. You'll have no trouble finding me and reaching me. And I'm very accessible. People can reach right out to me. I have a very different kind of business. So I'm not looking for millions of clients. And so I actually can respond to people. And I love that.
Okay. So, Ann, I'm so grateful for your time with us today. This has been a wealth of great information.
Thank you. It's been fun.
So thank you, everyone, for listening. As coaches, we obviously deal with cognitive dissonance in our clients' work and lives. But we have to be equally mindful how much our own cognitive dissonance is affecting us. As Ann and I talked about, it can manifest in many ways that range from pesky to dysfunctional to disruptive. But the good news is that, like many unpleasant feelings we experience, cognitive dissonance actually serves a useful purpose. It's an evolutionary tool that we can embrace for good. By alerting us to some kind of misalignment between our thoughts, beliefs, and actions, it presents a powerful opportunity for personal development. So instead of trying to cover up the warning light, so to speak, we should first seek to uncover the why behind our cognitive dissonance. From there, we can move on to resolve our inner conflict in a healthy way that incorporates more rational thoughts, feelings, and actions. And then ultimately, with practice, we can arrive at greater overall alignment in who we are and how we live our lives, which is one of the best predictors of fulfillment and happiness. I'm Dr. Irena O'Brien, and you've been listening to Neuroscience of Coaching. You can find out more about me at neuroscienceschool.com. Neuroscience of Coaching is a part of the Mirasee FM podcast network, which also includes such shows as Just Between Coaches and To Lead is Human. This episode was produced by Andrew Chapman. Danny Inney is our executive producer, and Marvin Del Rosario is our audio editor. To make sure you don't miss great episodes coming up on Neuroscience of Coaching, please follow us on Mirasee FM's YouTube channel or your favorite podcast player. If you enjoyed the show, please leave us a comment or a starred review. It's the best way to help us get these ideas out there to more people. Thanks, and we hope you'll join us next time.